Hey everyone, welcome to Judging for the Win. I'm Dave, and this is my daily ruling. Today's question was suggested by a viewer. Thanks to Mad Genius for this one. Can you find Aquamorph Entity with Imperial Recruiter? Okay, so if we were talking about this Shanna Sisay's legacy, we would definitely be able to get it because Shanna is a 0/0. It does have an ability that increases its power and toughness, but abilities generally only function on the battlefield, and this one is no exception. Now, some people might know that this Scion of the Wild is a different story. Some abilities can work in other zones besides the battlefield, which is obvious when you consider that, for example, Wonder's ability needs to function when it's in the graveyard. Relevant to this question, Scion of the Wild has a special kind of ability called a characteristic defining ability. And these function in all game zones, even outside the game and before the game starts. You can take a look at the rule on screen now to see the required conditions that an ability needs to fulfill in order to count as a CDA, but I'll just highlight that one of them is that it needs to set the characteristic to a specific value, which is the reason why Shanna's ability did not qualify. These are characteristic defining abilities, not characteristic enhancing abilities. Now let's take another look at that Aquamorph entity. And I can definitely see how this question could be a little bit confusing, especially if you knew that earlier ruling about the Scion of the Wild. You can see that Aquamorph Entity also has those stars for its power and toughness, meaning that something else on the card is going to define what those characteristics are going to be. Unfortunately, the game cannot know what the appropriate values to assign to the power and toughness are until its controller chooses what they will be. And that choice isn't made until the time when Aquamorph Entity is entering the battlefield. If the game needs to know those characteristics and no choice has been made for them, it falls back to the default values of 0/0. So yes, you could recruit an Aquamorph Entity. Ready for a challenge question to test your understanding? Let's say that I wanted to recruit this Lost Order of Jarkeld. Could I do it? And so here we have the same sort of thing going on as what we had with the Aquamorph Entity. In my library, this card won't have an opponent chosen for it. Therefore, when the game tries to determine how many creatures the chosen player has, it won't be able to. So the values on those stars will default to zeros. Therefore, in your library, the Lost Order of Jarkeld will be considered a 1/1. This is true even if I'm playing a two-player format where there's only one possible choice for an opponent. In the same way, if you wanted to search for an Aquamorph Entity with a wild pair, you would need to play a creature with a total power and toughness 0, not 6, even though either possible choice you could make for the entity would result in it having 6 total power and toughness on the battlefield. That doesn't matter because all wild pair cares about is the total power and toughness in the library. But that's all I have for today. How did you do? Join me again next time for another daily ruling, but until then, I hope you have a great day.